back on January 14th, we did a video on UBS, and I pinned it at the top here on TikTok, and I'll try to put it somewhere on X. But I want to go over what came out yesterday on UBS, but I want to put it in context first. You must remember something that, the UBS balance sheet now is probably 1.7 to, let's say, $2 trillion. And the entire Swiss economy is $800 to $900 billion. And the Swiss have been arguing publicly in their diet or whatever it's called, their Congress, about UBS, because if UBS goes belly up, they cannot afford to bail it out. Not a chance, okay? So the question is, it's very, very important on how UBS is managed. And according to UBS's own auditor, and you must remember something, companies pay these auditors, okay? So they want the job. Or UBS doing the audit is worth, tens of millions of dollars every year, okay, to get this done. And so for their own auditor to come out and say that they have an adverse opinion of their own client, and it also mentions an increased complexity of internal accounting. So basically, you can read it here. They say that they have failed to resolve the issues related to the misstatements inherited from Credit Suisse. As we have said many, many times before, if you look at, let's say, the three banks, Deutsche Bank, Credit Suisse, and UBS, they have been struggling. Before the great financial crisis, during the financial crisis, they went belly up and they were bailed out. And then 12 years later, we forced them to merge together, and Credit Suisse, so as bad as UBS is, Credit Suisse was much, much, much worse. So UBS has been treating the banks still as separate so that they can say, look at UBS, we're okay. There's nothing we can do about Credit Suisse. It's going to take us time. And UBS has come out and said, look, we're still reviewing, and because we're going to have to revise all the misstatements. Now, they're going to put this off as far as they can because the misstatements means that they need more capital. And if you go back and watch the January 14th video, you'll see that they're fighting tooth and nail not to increase their capital by $25 billion, $15 to $25 billion, when in reality, either they have to reduce their balance sheet by hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of billions of dollars, or they need to raise their capital rates by a couple $100 billion. Neither one of those things does UBS want to do. So UBS has stated they're trying to remediate all the issues with the misstatements, basically lying to regulators about their situation. And the FINMA, which is their Fed, has said, hey, we have intense contact with UBS over the integration of Credit Suisse. And the article ends with that Credit Suisse was under attack by all the authorities, U.S. authorities, the ECB, and the SNB, all over their cash flow, how they announced their cash flow, that gave the impression that they had more money than they did. And basically, they made the CFO resign, and then a month later, the bank went belly up. So what does this mean to you and I? Well, UBS is a GSIB, a globally systemic important bank, GSIB. There are 29. There's 8 of them in the United States. The world, all the governing bodies in the world, have named these companies, these banks, GSIBs on purpose. And what's the purpose? The first purpose is this, that the governments have given implicit guarantees to these banks. So no matter what the hell they do, and I mean whatever they do, we're going to bail them out. And the reason that we're going to bail them out is that these 29 banks are basically the owners, purveyors, and cross-ownership of all the derivatives in the world. Yes, they sell, a derivative, let's say to GM or some mining company or whatever. Yes, there are derivatives that way. But when you talk about the derivative business, it's all our GSIBs selling to each other. Okay? Yes, they sell the private equity, they sell the hedge funds, blah, 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 blah. But here's the deal. If one GSIB goes belly up, they all go. We can't stop it. They are so interconnected that we can't do anything about it. So then you look at the Swiss, and now we have this problem. We got Deutsche Bank, which we did about, 6 weeks ago? They're a mess, okay? But people feel that the German government is big enough and Deutsche Bank is small enough that if Deutsche Bank goes, they'll go in and save it because it's Deutsche Bank. UBS is a different situation. They are basically 3 times the size of the country's, Switzerland's GDP. Now, to give you a reference point, if you took every bank in America, every savings and loan, every credit union, everybody, added them all up, we're about 20% of the GDP of America. Think of UBS. It's basically between 200 and 300% larger than the Swiss economy. They can't bail them out. So that leaves a very interesting situation. And given the geopolitical world today, there are a multitude of questions that I have. If something happens to UBS and they're going to go belly up, what happens? The Fed came in and saved UBS and Credit Suisse and Deutsche Bank during the great financial crisis, okay? But given the geopolitical situation today with the EU and the Trump administration and NATO and all this other stuff, do you really see them jumping in and saying, go ahead, Fed, bail them out? I'm unsure of that. Then the second point is, okay, then if we won't do it, will the ECB do it? And that's another interesting question because they really don't have a mechanism for bailing them out. Even when the Fed bailed them out during the great financial crisis, it was on a lending program, and by the way, we didn't tell anybody about it, okay? So how does this all come down? So we know from their auditor that they have no confidence in their risk management system. They have stated that they have many misstatements by UBS through Credit Suisse, or let's say Credit Suisse through UBS, on their financial situation, where they actually had to say, we have to give an adverse opinion. For a bank, this is devastating. So how's this all going to come down? I have no idea. But I will tell you something. If one of these banks go, we're all going to feel it. And if it's going to be UBS, it's going to be a real mess. So what do you think? If UBS goes, should we bail them out? Should the ECB bail them out? Or do we make Switzerland go poof and disappear? Because basically, that's exactly what will happen to Switzerland. And by the way, they know this, and that's why they're arguing about it right now. So, like and follow, and tell me in the comments everything you think. Thanks a lot for following.